Shalom, Yasha. How about Shem Yahshai Barakatah? We are the Isupk. Started out of 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York in 1969. We're under Commanding General Yohana. Teach the truth of the Bible, Hispanics and nations, the real history according to the scriptures. This is the Friday Lashawan Qadash class, which means holy tongue. This is the ancient Hebrew class. What we've been doing over the past few weeks is we've been kind of taking a step back, going back over the basics. We got brothers that are getting ready to take their officer's test. And so going over some of the fundamentals is very important to that. And before we get back into anything to expound on the 12 tribes, the 18 nations, things that you're going to need for the test, we need to make sure we get the alphabet down pat. So last week we started with the ancient Paleo Hebrew, which is the alphabet you see on the left side here. I have them written on the board here. We're going to go over them briefly before we step into the next alphabet, which is the second one, the Assyrian Hebrew. And this is the one that we see more often because of Sabbath service. You understand? So a lot of this should look familiar, but again, going over the handwritten variants is going to be important so that we can read the alphabets down. What's up? Technically, they both are ours. The reason why we say it's not is because this is what's associated with what the people in the land of Israel use today, but they use it in a different dialect, and Yiddish is what they call it. So while the characters are the same, they pronounce them different. We're simply taking the ancient Hebrew, learning the pronunciation of these consonants, and then using the same in the other language without using their dialect. Does that make sense? That's true. So the ancient Paleo Hebrew dates back as far as human, records have can even indicate. Even if you go far back to of Adam, perhaps, or even the time of Noah, this is what you're going to see. Now, this comes into play around 700 BC. You understand? Not the Romans, but the Assyrians. The Assyrian Empire, they're the ones that took Israel into captivity, and we created this alphabet here around that time. And they took what we created and then used it in the land when they were put in our land. And to this day, they've used that Hebrew since 720 BC. And so, what you're going to notice about when if you were to go to the land of Israel today, you're going to see that language there because that's the exact same alphabet that was given to them when they were put in the land of Israel around 720 BC when the Assyrians placed the northern tribes, right? So that's how that goes. And then 20 years later, where the Israelites that were in Assyrian captivity banded together, and a large group of us left that land and came over to Arsarat, which we now know as the Americas. However, here's the interesting part. The part that about this that you have to understand is that must have been done on purpose because nowhere in American archaeologically do you see this alphabet. You see this one, which means what? Which means we still knew both of them, but we used this version over there among the other nations, and we kept this version of it to ourselves so that when we came over to this side of the globe, the whole idea was to keep ourselves separate from everybody else, was to keep ourselves holy, and in doing so, the alphabet is what the ISUPK does as well, because it is separate. And this is why, for the sake of academics and reading and during the Sabbath, where we use applications that don't have the ancient, instead have this, we have to know this. But as far as what we personalize for ourselves, garments and you know what I'm saying, say we put posters of prayers up around our houses or in the schools that we're at, we most likely just briefly through this real quick. Ha, wa, za. Right? Wa. Mm-hmm. And then in the next row we have ha. That's how I remember that ha is what it is. Because ha, like this is ha. Do you understand? Because this is ha. This is ha right here. And you see how it has the lines that go across? Yeah. It's ha going across. Technically there's no overdrawn. So it kind of looks like the letter H anyways, just with extra lines through it anyways. Right? So this I remember how was khataya. Now of course looks like a target, right? Target is, it looks like, like something there to kind of just have to remember because Yah is going to be the beginning word in the Most High's name, right? So you definitely want to know that one. And the Most High's name is Yahweh. These are joined together. These are pronounced by themselves. Yahweh. You understand? Starting with the Yah. Yahweh. All right. So we have Ka, like a backwards K, basically. Yeah, Ka la ma na, right? And then you come over. I mean, you could think of this as a satellite. That's an easy way to remember it. That is an easy way to remember it. But another way that I remember it too is because it already looks like that. I know that looks like a 5, but I'm just drawing it like that. Like if you think of a money sign, it always has an S with a line through it, but you're really just taking that off. And then there's the sa right there. It's hidden. I don't know. And this is easy to remember why. Well, not only that, but what does eye actually mean? Eyeball. This is like an eyeball. Yeah. Like your eyes. Yeah. Eye. So we think of this as eye because we think of the line eye, right? That's not what it is. Eye in ancient Hebrew looks like this because I mean, the eye. I don't want people to think that's derogatory. But you know what I'm saying though, like the eyeball is circular, That's how you pronounce this. So we have Khataya, Kalamana, Ta, I. Mouth, and think of Pac-Man, right? Whole game would do, of course, trying to eat everything means mouth. Tazah, that's actually kind of explanatory. It looks like a T together. Mm-hmm. Tazah, Qua. I think jellyfish when I see it, but Qua obviously have to remember it. Yeah, the Q, Qua. And then Ra, when you think of the letter R, it's backwards without the line, right? And then this is actually more sharp than it is curved. So Ra is just a backwards R, basically. And then finally, you have Sha, and then Tha. Now, the tricky part here is taking that and then relearning it in the other form, right? Because to start, that's what we're going to drill today so that we can get them just like a strong grasp of the alphabet. You know what I'm saying? That way we're quicker with the letters, we're quicker with the characters. That way when you to read during Sabbath service, sounding out the letters will allow you to sound out the words. So again, go through the whole alphabet. Just kind of repeat after me. I was no, starting from the front. Man, I Sha Tha. Mm-hmm. Tha. Exactly. All right. So now, of course, we have here already written down. Keep it here on the board, and I believe we have visibility on the screen. So for those of you tuning in online, you should be able to see this still with no problem. All right. Um, let me see. The alphabet we just went over is right here. What we're going to do is we're going to do Syrian alphabet today. The Assyrian alphabet, which is the alphabet that we see more commonly, anyways. So shouldn't be too big of an issue, but we're going to do them one at a time. Ancient Hebrew was right? You can go ahead and write that if you want, because basically we're going to be writing this, but we're going to practice each letter one at a time. And I don't mind practicing with you. Those of you that are online, you want to grab a notebook, you want to get a sheet of paper, especially if you can, one with lines on it, because we're going to be drawing our characters in a line from the right to the left. We're going to practice pronouncing it. We're going to practice writing it because, of course, learning how to write the language, you got to practice to get the handwriting down too, right? Hmm? No, no. I'm just giving this as a reference so you know which letter we're covering. Yeah. So the first letter is going to be ah. Again, there's going to be it's just a whole different alphabet. It's really just a matter of training your mind to remember what it look like in this form now. Ah. What I do is going from right to left, you want to pronounce it as you're writing it. Ah. Ah. You want to try to work on your consistency, getting it to look similar. Ah. Go ahead and try it yourself. Make sure that you're repeating it every time that you write it. That's going to be great for you to remember it. Ah. Some people write it like the way I'm doing it, where I do this cross first and then come in and finish it. Some people will write it like that. Hopefully that's fine too. I just kind of find it consistent when I write it that way. So I'll go in like this. Ah, ah, ah. Right. You talking about like here on the ends? No, no. But that's kind of the formal way that it looks. Ah, and you just basically, if you go like this, technically that, like I said, that's fine too. It's just writing's worse when I go like that. It's harder to be consistent like that. You don't have to write it the way I do, but I do foundation. I do that because to me it looks cleaner. It looks a bit more structured. Make sure that you say it after you write it. That's a big part of remembering it. Yeah. So again, I just kind of go over, cross, over, and then I add the leg here, and I add the arm here. We're gonna get ah ah ah. Hopefully, regulate the original Hebrew more common than the modern Hebrew. You understand? Honestly, it almost damn near looks like a H, right? It almost does. Might even get away with write it that way, but it obviously has some kind of curve on the insides of the middle. So that's why I write it this way. It's kind of hard to write it the same size as I go over here, but the idea, right? Go ahead and write a whole line across of that. Did you go ahead and do that? So again, as you're writing it, of course you want to say it, right? So that would be the letter ah. Next letter be ba. 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 This is a little shorter. All right. And ba, and remember, as you're writing from right to left, say it as you write it. How many times I got to tell you that? So ba, like that. Ba. Ba. Just a curve down and then a line that goes across that need to go all the way over here like that. It just has to go past it. And ba looks like this. Is technically or no letters. They're all considered uppercase letters. Ba. So as you write, you notice that you're getting the form down right. You know what I'm saying? Ba. You're getting that consistency in the characters. Ba. Ba. Practicing like that. So good work on that. Ba. Simple as that. We're gonna go down the alphabet doing this. So and then we'll review it. Ga, which we know God to look like this in the ancient Hebrew. Ga looks like this. Hell, this almost looks like a swastika, if anything, right? They're kind of flirting with it a little bit, huh? But here it is. So Ga, it's almost like a, I don't know, snake with a leg, right? Ga, boom. Ga. And again, those of you that are tuned in, if you want to practice with it and get a notepad and write these letters with it. Every time you write the letter, say it. Ga. Doesn't have to be all. It didn't have to be 100% perfect. You know, the idea is to get the practice in. the form. You just want to try to keep it as close to the original as you can. Ga, ga, ga. This is a very important class we're doing today because this is the characters that you see during the Sabbath service. So if you want to get better at reading for the Sabbath, and then of course you're going to know this for the test as well. How you looking? Let me see. Ga. There you go. What's next? Da. 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 Da just goes across like that. Da. It's like an offset T. Almost like a. I mean, I really don't. I don't really. Yeah. But the division was the other. Da. Mm. Would be da in the ancient, and then this would be da in the modern Hebrew, right? Da. 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 Just remember not to put the line right here to put it in. Right. Because you got to, most of the time, you're going to see it like that, even on the apps. The characters in and right in the hand. So, da, I think we're on that. Right. Ha would look like this in the ancient Hebrew. Ha looks like this. And when we're reading during the Sabbath service, ha, ha, ha. Just remember that there's a. So you're not drawing it like this. It has to have that gap there. You know what I'm saying? Hmm. Sometimes it's a little bit more shorter, like that. That's a letter ha. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, just make sure that the line doesn't. It's still lined up like as if it's you know what I mean. Just make sure the line hasn't shifted any other particular. Ha. That'd be ha. Straight. And then next we got wa. Wa is actually probably one of the trickier letters because, and I'll explain here. So wa in the Assyrian looks almost like a Y, but in the now here's what you're gonna see. Wa is gonna technically look like this. It just kind of curves straight down almost immediately. Wa, wa. Now when you see it on the app, it's just a line because the like if you were using a computer and you were typing in Hebrew, like when you see on the Bible Hub app, the character just looks like a straight line. It just looks like a straight line. Like in here, your paper that it would Just like this. Wa. Wa. Wow. 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 And there's your letter Wa. It's basically a curved line, is it? After Wa, you now have the letter Za, which is easily recognizable in the ancient Hebrew. It's already looking like a Z. Let me see if one of these other markers has a good line on it. Za in the Assyrian Hebrew basically curves like this and then curves down like this. So it's like a T basically, but it's a curvy one. It's like that. Boom. You know what's crazy is that when we write Ga, it looks like this. And if you tilt it, it almost does look like the letter Za. It's just straight down. So it's this curve here, this curve here. That's Z curve there. Mm-hmm. Trying to find one of these colors that works well. I don't know if that one's very visible on the camera. Here we go. This uh Za. 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 Keep practicing it. Za. 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 So the letters definitely one that you don't see as when you recognize it when we're reading during Sabbath service, you'll know what it is. Za. Just don't get it mixed up with Ga. I know that's kind of easy to do because it's a little bit twisted. That. How you looking so far? So far, this is what we got. Right. Ah. Ba. Ga. Ha. Wa. And then Za. Everybody see that? So just like how we built the other alphabet, Ah, Ba, Ha, Wa, Za. Now we're doing this in Hebrew. Next letter is going to be Cha. Cha, which in the ancient Hebrew looks like a ladder, right? Looks like a ladder. Cha. Now the interesting thing about Ha and Ha, just like how in the ancient Hebrew, how Ha looks like this and Cha. Luckily, in the Assyrian Hebrew, there is some similarity. Ha to look like almost like a table, but with the untouching line right here, right? Go ahead and inspect them real quick. I'll give y'all a second to take a look at the board. take a minute to review what we have so far. All right. Hey, swallow cry. Man, get you a chair. Did you have something? There you go. Check over there. There should be some pens over there. All right. The next letter, ha, does actually look like ha in this alphabet also. Where untouching line here, ha looks like a table with the touching line and the overhang, like an actual table would, right? So ha is gonna look just like this. It's like a double T. And then we're repeating it. It's not going to fray too much far away from that. It should look like that. Generally speaking, it should be pretty squared off, though. It's ha. Like you're about to spit, right? Just we're done like the way that you know small hats do it. So it's just ha. Ha. Right. Ha. 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 You know, just want to practice that form there. Ha. That way, every time you say it, you can write it. That's why we're doing both. We're doing it both ways so that you more than one of one dimensional. You really better when the reading it in the Assyrian. Ha. Let's see how it looks. Yeah. Okay. I was practicing the alphabet. Ha. It is. It is kabar. Yeah. We say kabar just because it's kind of say it as easy as you are. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't need to be overdone. You like you ain't that, right? That's too much. Hey, get away from there because this cord is very sensitive. It could cut off the feed. So we got za. Now we have ha, right? Yeah. So we're good on that. There. So that writing down ha. Go ahead and write this on the right of the page. You can always refer to which line it is. Not on that side, this side. Yeah. Word that we use that has that in it, we use it all the time. Ak. Notice aha, because when it's tied to another letter, it finishes the word with the beginning of that letter. So ach. Now, if I was gonna say, I'm just kind of going a little extra here. See the difference? And achad means one, and then Abarayam. So this is actually a name. This is Captain Achad Abarayam's name. I'm just showing you that we use this letter more than one way. Sometimes it's used at the end of a word, and then that is used at the end. So ak finishes that word. Achad would, based off of how the connectors are being used, this would either have the full pronunciation of ka, or if it's used at the end, it would finish with the ch instead, right? So that's just an example of it. You don't have to write that down because we're viewing alphabet in general. Go ahead. That's what is more accessible. So being versatile is important, right? Being versatile is important because if we relied completely on this, that would mean that every app that we use now exists to some extent, but it's easier to find this, much like how it's easier to find English Bibles, right? And because that's something that we are used to, and because they're more readily available, it is good to have English Bibles. It's good to have Spanish Bibles because those are languages that we know. And because they're more common, remember, we're revising the ancient language, and so of course we're learning this too. But it's not as established on the earth again as we would want it to be. It will eventually, but because this is what's most established right now, that is why we learn it. That is why we learn it. You'd be able to go to the land of Israel and you would be technically, I mean, it's crazy because it's our land, but it's like being behind enemy lines and you'd be able to understand what it's saying because by the time your vocabulary is good enough and being able to understand these characters, you'll be like, oh, that's oh, that says the bar. Okay, that says, like that says, this or that. It'll say there's of course more words to learn, but you'll be like you'll find out the word for restroom, and then you'll know where the restroom's at because you can read the sign, right? So it is good to know both. I go wherever you go. Just knowing multiple language is like a damn near a superpower in itself, right? Next letter is ta. Ta. Ta in the ancient Hebrew looks like a target, right? In the Assyrian Hebrew looks like a piece of toast. That's how I remember it. But it does have an overhang. So it kind of goes like that. You think of a toast, slice of toast. It has that little lump that goes in like that. Ta. That's how I remember the letter. Just know that it has this little curve here and then a curve up here that squares off like that. Almost like back in the day, you try to draw birds in the sky. terrible, right? But people got the idea. Imagine you starting the letter off. It copy. Let's see what it's looking like. Yeah. I know my writing is crooked, but ta. Remember your edge. Try not to forget that either. Like if you were to try to draw a piece of toast, how would you draw it? You would draw it like kind of like a book, yeah. Ta. Don't spend too much time on that one. So we have abag wa ta, and we have ta. Now here's the smallest character out of all of them, ya. Ya, which in the ancient Hebrew is a full character. In the Assyrian Hebrew, it's a small character, almost like an apostrophe. His name in the Assyrian, yeah, that's why I say it's a small character. The way Ga is, because honestly, Ga looks a lot like Ya in this alphabet, just like that. No, you're absolutely right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now here's the kicker. Okay, so we have Wa. When you see it on an app, it'll either look like, damn, it'll either look like the curve, like the little, how we drew the Wa earlier, how it just kind of curves straight down like that. Let me redraw that because that's a little off. It's like this right here. Ya, what we just did, ya, right? Ya, yeah. Now, when you see characters, Bible Hub, Strong's, gonna look like, and then what's the difference? It's the length of the line. But Ya is elevated, Wa is just a regular size, and Indna goes beyond. I don't want to confuse anybody, but like say how like your characters on your notebook right now, you're like Wa, 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 and then Ya, Ya, Indna. Right? That's how you'll know. When you see the character on the app, Wa is going to look like a line that pretty much takes up that space. Ya is going to look like a tiny line that's elevated like this. And then to get to that is going to be a line that goes beyond the bottom barrier. That's just how it is. You're just going to have to know that. That's why it's. Yeah. Everybody got that? Yeah, you got Ya on there? It's like a little 7, right? Or a little. And we're actually gonna cover both. You about to head out? All right then. Shalom, Lord Christ. All right. So again, just like how we were doing in the previous alphabet, when I rewrite this, I'm gonna rewrite this, but I'm gonna rewrite both alphabets next to each other. Waza. Go ahead. All right. So now we have those. So the next section is going to be starting with the letter A. Formerly, Ka is. Mhm. Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I guess you could say that. But whereas you see it have this curve and then it goes across, or you'll just see it go like this and then this. It- just you be able to recognize either one. Because technically, the formal writing forms like this, the text characters are going to look like this. Don't get it mixed up with ba. What's the difference? That right there makes a difference. That's why it's important to know when there's overhang or not. You know what I'm saying? Because the letter ba goes over like that, but that without the. Hmm. Ka, ka, ka. And that, man, you just got to practice it like that. Ka. Here's the thing about do one of these. So ka, ka, ka. However, when ka is a letter that's used at the end of a word, of a root word, it's going to look like this. Remember how one thing you want to keep in mind for these, except for ma, which is just a square, these ones, like just I remember how when I was explaining how na is just a longer wa, basically. So ka is just like a seven with the longer line. I'm kind of exaggerating it here just so you get the point because you're gonna see it like just like that, where it's just a longer draw in the end ka. What's the example? Barak. There's your ba, ra. Actually, see how this goes further down than the way these go down? That's on purpose. That's how it's supposed to be. So when you're drawing it on your notebook paper, notice that how the line is right here, and this is what guides you to know when the stopping the ka at the end is just a longer letter. Barak means to bless. Yeah, you go beyond it. You see what I'm saying? So now again, exactly why I always say when you're writing the words, repeat it. Ka, ka. Now we're doing the other one. End ka, end ka, end ka. practicing. That's the ka that's at the end of a word, right? That's why I say end ka. I'm not saying indica. I'm not talking about weed. I'm talking about end ka. Ka when end of. I repeat it when I write it because I'm practicing understanding that it looks like that. End ka. Um, technically it is, but you'll just go straight down when it's on a computer text, like on the app, right? Eventually, we'll implement other ways to video class online and things like that, but basically the idea there. Uh, let's take a look. Now, you want to do a line on that goes across that has both variants. So go ahead and do the end ka, but this time give yourself some space below on that extra line so that you can practice writing it beyond the way the line is. End ka, end ka, end ka. And if you do that, you won't forget it. What? Yeah, just ka and then just END and then KA. It's just a longer tail at the end. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Perfect. Now, again, is it important to say it after you write it? Because you have to keep in mind, like we just looked at the word Barak, right? Ra looks like this. So you see how you can kind of get them mixed up? Because technically this just curves down. Ka is just so important to so there's Ka and you right. Now ah. La's this one's actually hard to write consistently. La is kind of like remember how we were talking about the birds? How when you would draw the birds and stuff when you were young? Do that, except do it a little bit tilted over and then finish it with like as if you were getting ready to draw a heart, but you're not coming back up with it. You're just like that. It's like la, 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 la. You, but as long as you can recognize this overall shape right here, it's easy to remember because why? Because la almost like the word love and hearts and love kind of go the same. So it's almost like a heart. So it's like love. That's kind of stupid. I don't even like that comparison. But that's the letter. That's the letter la. It's la. La. Huh? They cut him off from la. 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 Oh, oops. La. Go ahead and practice that real quick. La. I, I didn't even like saying, but hey, that whatever helps you remember it. La. Good word. La. That's your, right. Heart. Basically. La. Hmm. We're using the words that we already have. The tribe of Levi, right? So Levi would be la, wa, and then a ya. La, ya. Levi is la, ya. La, wa, and then ya. Except these two are connected, so it's la, ya. Levi is la, ya. Example. So again, we got right? Next letter. Oh, sorry. Go ahead and repeat that. Mhm. That's how you know you be we some big niggas. We're thinking about food. Yeah, this is a toast. This right here is your, you know what I mean? Your this is your loaf. Exactly. Keep in mind the end card too. We don't have to say it, but just keep in mind that that's there. Next is ma. Ma. This one's easy. Even the end variant because ma is just a square with some overhang. All right, it's gonna look like that. It will have a bit of a lip to it. Boom. Ma. Ma. Okay. Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Remember to close it out. Remember, it has a bottom as well. You want to close it out. Why? Because you don't want to get it mixed up with the letter ma. Does have an overhang on the left side, but not on the right side. Don't let no overhang because you're gonna get it mixed up with ka, especially if you don't the bottom ma. You know? Just a square with a lip. End ma is just an actual square with no lip. End ma. End ma. End ma. End ma. Technically, yeah, I don't want to mess. End ma. Right. Very similar. You don't have to worry about it going beyond the line like all the other end variants, but it's literally a square. Yeah. I'll give you an example. Ms. It's actually a part of the test. I'll give you. Mizraim is the ancient pronunciation of Egypt, Mizraim. But in the Lashawan Qadash, I don't want to overwhelm you, Ma Tazar Yam. Ma Tazar Yam. So why am I showing you this? Because check it out, it's got both versions of the M in the same word. Ma, right? Tazah, that's the word we're going to go over in a little bit. Ma Tazar Ya. And then the Ma at the end is just a square without the lip. So Ma Tazar Yum. Ma Tazar Yum. You understand? If I I'm just showing you, I'm only showing you, you don't have to, I know this is kind of skipping ahead, but I'm just showing you the example. Ma, when it's used anywhere else other than the end of the word. Ma, Tazar, Ra, so Tazar, and then Yam. Okay. Um, Yam, and then the end Ma. So see the difference there? That's just giving you using it at the end of a word versus anywhere else. Ma. Let's take a look at your progress here. Let's see what you got. So you got Ma, and you kind of finish them off. Now do the end Ma. I know it's pretty much the same thing, but you still want to write it down. Go ahead and write it down on the sheet. It's just a square. There's no way we can get that wrong, right? Ma. End Ma. End Ma. End Ma. End Ma. So I'm kind of the alphabet as we go along. So there's Ma. Usually enough, Na doesn't look anything like Ma, like the Hebrew, and that's kind of why we like the ancient Hebrew better, is because there's a lot of similarities even with English characters, but then some of the stuff that we know like La and Za and Ma and Na, they kind of there's still some similarities there. Na in the Assyrian, where we know Na to look like this in the ancient Hebrew, Na in the Assyrian just looks like a three, but not like a three like this, but a three with a curve in it. So it's like nah. In your mind like this, it's just a whole different look. You just have to memorize it, and the only way you're going to do that is by repeating it a lot. Nah, nah. Go ahead and try it. Like a little sock puppet. Nah, that's not. No, za is this. Mm-hmm. Nah. Like we mentioned earlier about knowing the difference between wa, ya, and end na. And the way that it looks in the apps looks like wa, ya, and end na. End na is right here. End na looks like a longer wa. It's just end na. And it looks like this. Boom. Boom. Just kind of exaggerate that line there. Boom. Just so that you know that that's definitely an end na. It's just a long end tail right there. End na. End na. And that's going to kind of help you memorize the way that na looks at the end. Uses na like that. Well, of course, con, con. See that? It's just ka and na. And then, of course, that in, because it's at the end. If it was a y, it would only go right here. But since it's an in na, it goes beyond that. That's all that is. It's kind of showing you an example. Go ahead and practice a line of those. We're getting there. We're getting about done with it. And then we'll be able to go back and do the ancient Hebrew. But I also want to kind of do both, which I know is kind of hard to do, but the more you'll get both of them anyway. And then if it's not, go ahead and say that too. And nah. Let's see it. All right. Did you need to go to the restroom? No, go ahead. I'll just cover with the people online real quick about some things. So again, we have the alphabet so far, which looks like this. This is what we have so far. We've been basically building the Assyrian Hebrew alphabet. There are a couple variations. What you're seeing again, the Assyrian Hebrew has 5 variations at the end of a word that look different where the letters anywhere else. So far we have abba. Those are this is the first line there. Abba gada chataya. Chataya. We say cha because cha have some similarities there. However, this one kind of has more of it has a connection here and an overhang at the top, almost like a table, right? Ta, the letter ta, we liken it unto a toast, right? Because it kind of looks like a bread, right? That's just kind of how it's an easy way for us to remember it because it looks like toast. Ta, right? Ya looks almost like an apostrophe or any version of the letter ga. However, since we're not focusing on that right now, let's just remember that this is the only letter that is smaller than all the other characters in, and it's elevated up. Never where you see ya right there where the line is at. It's always going to be elevated above. So if this is just all these characters and like when we write the Most High's name, ya, ha, wa, boom, just like that. See how it's elevated? If the line for the writing is to take place right here, it's ya. There's 2 variants. The first letter that has 2 variants. Just write it that way if you like. Um, just write a straight curve in like that. Fine, you're gonna see it like that. Difference here between ka, like in say if I write Officer Capillar's name, here's ka, right, and then here's pa. Okay, ra. Right here looks like this. But when I write the word here, this is Capillar, which means young lion, and here's Barak, which means bless, right? So there's your ba, there's your ra, and then you have your end ka. So this is ka, and this is ka. But the only difference between the two is that because this ka is used at the end of a word, you have to use this version of it. Why brothers prefer the ancient Hebrew, because you don't have to deal with that stuff. And being versatile, knowing how to read the modern day Hebrew, or things you have to know. Looks like this normally, and then looks like a long elongated 7 when it's at the end of a word, right? So we went ahead and la. It's just one of those letters you just kind of have to get the idea of. Israelite custom. It's just la. Thankfully, there's no end variant. It just looks like that. Mine forward enough because it's just a square with the lip hangover on the left side. Go ahead. It's gonna be it'll be the ancient, yeah. It'll be the ancient, but I mean, what I don't know is this. This is a question that I would ask. Say, are the other nations going to use our holy tongue? Right, but are they going to be writing in this version or the old or that variant? It's almost that's a good question, but that I'm not 100% sure if that's actually in the scriptures. So that's why there is a scripture on it. But one thing I know is that we're probably just going to go and revert back to the original because that's what we're comfortable with anyways, and we're always trying to make languages easier, and that's the easiest one. So why not go with what we remember better? So for the sake of uh, dealing with where we are now and the resources we have now, we learn this variation because it is, like I said, more available. So that's why we see it all over the place. So that's a good question too. In Genesis, when it talks about the language actually being used, there were some other nations that used that originally. Moab used it, Ammon used it. Those are Chinese and Japanese. Uh, you know, people from the seed of Shem used it, right? Noah used it. So you can bet that all civilizations actually derived from this alphabet. So they did use it in the past. Perhaps that might be a reason why in the kingdom that this may just go back to being the main language, because all the other nations that existed because of everybody coming from Noah, they had that. You understand? They had that because remember, the only people that survived were people that knew that language after the flood. So if there were any other languages, it's really all that important. But you'll notice that a lot of languages take ideas from this because they start off that way. All right. So we have here is Chataya. Next letter is Sa. Sa. Sa is, just think of a dude that's like, "What's up, dude?" And he has like a hairdo, right? Sa. Sa. Sa, where it normally looks like a satellite or like an S, right, with a dollar sign line through it. It's just basically Sa with the little hairdo, right? It's just a circle with the curve at the top. Sa. No, but it's just straight up Sa. Sa. So when I go like that, you get used to it. It doesn't have to be that exaggerated. As long as you can see the center of the circle. When you come across like this, you don't have to go all out like that. You just have to, it just has to be enough to know that there's like some overhang there. You know what I mean? Just enough. You know how when you, yeah, like when you draw the letter A lowercase, you kind of do that. You like, that's perfect right there. You see that? So Sa. Sa does not have an end variant. So what's a word with Sa that we use often? Salaki. But in the ancient Hebrew first. So Salah. Yeah. So when I draw it in the Assyrian, it's going to start with Sa. We know that. Sa. La. Ha. And Ya. All right. I'm just giving. They're completely different. That's why I would practice. I'm comfortable to jump just because of what you're doing right now. I've the whole alphabet, and I wrote page after page of me just writing the alphabet over and over, and then practicing saying it, and it's stuck with me all these years. I've been practicing it because of that, and that's why I like this method of studying it. It's just going to prepare you to recognize it a lot quicker. So we have ah, sa, right? Sa, I. This is I, and this one technically does have little lines at the end. I, Assyrian. Mm-hmm. Exactly. I looks like an actual eyeball. This looks like a Y. When we say the letter Y sound, I. So it's just you curve in and then you curve out like that. And then you draw these little things right here. kind of, it's almost like we're almost drawing a swastika again because if we did that, we keep seeing that. But hey, I, boom. You see that? Mm-hmm. I. So it goes like that, and it goes like that. Boom, boom, boom. I. I know. But the crazy thing is, that's what we see most of the time. Like I said, the form is important. You'll see why here in a second, because one of these other characters that we have kind of does look like this, but you don't want to get them mixed up. Hmm. I. I kind of looks like a Y. Let me see how your form looks. See how you're drawing it. Go ahead and curve that bottom part in a little better because you got it going down, but it needs to curve to the left. Yeah. Yeah. Curve it. Yeah, like that. Hmm. Those lines that you draw don't have to be that long. They just have to be enough to show that, you don't have to exaggerate. You don't have to go like that. It just needs to go like boom or so like yeah. It needs to go like curve stop and then curve stop. And then you just a little accent. That's it. I. Hmm. Um, Trooper and then Ha. 4 characters. Ira. So his name has I in it. True, I didn't mean to do that. Sa I. Next letter. Pa. All right. Pa. Yeah. You can say it. Pa. Well, Pa in the Assyrian Hebrew looks the exact same, but it's got a little hangman going on. You ever see, I'm saying, a little hangman, a little crane coming. Pa. While Pa in the Assyrian looks like this. Boom. 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 Bam. Pa. You see that? Pa. Now, Pa does have an invariant, but what's important to know about this variant is that the left line is long. Instead of, when you look at this one right here, you go over and you draw it. Over here, you just curve it and then you. So Pa, when you draw the Pa as a end variant, end Pa looks like it just goes like a long line right here and then a line right here, almost like a backwards Y. So it's just long line and then it comes up right here. End Pa. End Pa. Oh, I'm tripping. It's like it. I have the wrong one. My apologies. Hold on. End Pa goes across like this. I have the wrong one. I was thinking of the other one. It says end Pa. It's like it. does that little crane thing, and then goes across like that. Mistake. So it just goes, it's kind of like you're starting off the same way, but instead of curving under, you're just drawing a long line. When it's an end variant, you see? So pa and in pa, they are very similar because you're starting it off the same, but instead of curving in, you're just going straight out, straight down. So in pa. You know what's crazy is that it looks a lot like in ka. So if you pa just has a little crane at the end, right here on this side. So it's just a little crane. I mean, I guess you could say that, yeah, because that's the language they're familiar with. Yeah. Mm-mm. They learned our language. So okay, when we were put into Assyrian captivity, we made this. Yeah, I know, but they're both ours. It's just that they are revising and then adding their own dialect to it. So we're not learning their language. We're learning our own language, our own dialect. The characters will be the same. But if you were to go to somebody and start saying the words like Tawab and Yashar Allah, they don't recognize it like that because their dialect is different. They'd be like Israel and you know what I mean? Shalom with the O instead of a A. So like it's different because they have vowels. We don't use vowels. We don't use vowels because it's almost like, "What's up, cuh?" Like, how's it that Israel talk when we get to know each other and we get real, close with one another? We start talking in the simple, "Yo, what's good, man? Oh, what you talking about?" Like we're shortening the words while they want to make it all fancy and make the words longer and add vowels and stuff. We're just trying to get our point quick. But like I said, both of these are our Hebrews. It's just that this is what they've inherited this version. You know what I'm saying? We're learning both of them. Like I said, it's about versatility. Um, Now, if it were up to me, if I'm being completely honest, I will have the Torah in ancient Hebrew and we'll be reading ancient Hebrew. If it's easier to read, why not? I don't see why that'd be an issue. Of course, the general's a mandate that we use the Assyrian for Sabbath service, whatever, right? Like we'll follow orders, you know what I'm saying? But if it's easier for us to read with the connectors using the ancient Hebrew, like what I'm thinking is like say we get a school set up and we have prayers on the wall, the prayers are going to be in the ancient Hebrew. They will be in the ancient Hebrew because we're going to stick with the most original form for our decorative purposes to really show our culture. What was your question? No, we don't use vowels. None of those are vowels. That's what we know them as today. That's what we know them as today. The, okay, think of the word E, U, and O. Those words are not in this alphabet. Yeah, well, you think of you. So in the original Hebrew, ah is not a vowel. It's not. Uh, what's the other one? I. That's not a vowel. Originally, it was used as a vowel later on. As a, what are vowels really? Vowels are just all vowels actually do is just fill in consonants, right? That's all they do. Yeah, they fill in, but because we stick with the original pronunciation of each character, we don't need them. And that's why our dialect is different from theirs, because their dialect relies on vowels to make the language different enough so that certain words can mean certain. You know what I mean? Because as language evolved over time, they felt that they needed more words to convey what they were trying to say. And so they added characters. We don't do that because we use the same words for all kinds of stuff. If I say cheese, it could mean money. If I say crib, it could mean your house. You know what I'm saying? If I say slab, it could actually mean concrete, but it could also mean a car because a car is a big brick, you know what I'm saying, on wheels. You know what I mean? So we are like that. White people don't like doing that. They don't like to have words used for multiple meanings. So they'll just make a whole nother word, or they'll make a whole nother. They'll just add to the alphabet, and that's why French and hell even Spanish are what they are because of that. You know what I'm saying? But some elements from Spanish does apply to Hebrew, and you can tell that they've taken influences from that, like having prefixes and suffixes, things like that. Now we're almost done here. Pa is what we had. All right, pa. Yeah, that completes our cycle there. So let's go ahead and study that again. We a, ba, ga, da, ha, wa, za. Go ahead. Ha, wa. This is wa. We're going straight down. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're ancient right now. A, ba, ga, da, ha, wa, za. And we got ka, la, ma, na, sa, I, pa. Ma, na. It's na. Right. Ka, la, ma, na, sa, I, pa. Sa, I, pa. And of course, we have the end pa variant, which goes like this. Right. Taza. Now, remember how I write the letter A? I go like this, and then I go like that, and then I go like that. There's a reason why I write it like that. Because this is going to look very similar to this. They look very similar, but they are not the same letter. No, I drew my Y, my taza. I go across like that, just like I'm going to draw up. Right? Then I just go straight across, and then I add this lip here, and then I put the little indexes. Which one? Ah or so I. Here's I. Remember that way you don't get confused, right? Because the difference, this goes down and then sharp. I'm saying, you see, so I curve, curve like this, while taza goes like you're getting ready to start the letter ah, but then you just boom straight across, and then you draw that curve right there, boom, and there's your taza. You see that? So now practice this. I want you to say it every time you write it, and just go across the board on your paper there while writing it. So again, taza goes like that, boom, just like this. The more you practice it, the right. Sa I pa taza, right? So taza, boom, boom, boom. See how I'm just the way that I bring it in, it curves in, stops, takes a straight 90-degree, boom, just like that. Taza. And if you write it like that, then you won't get it mixed up with I, because I know they're very similar. They are not the same. Yeah, that's good. No, I like that. Remember, remember when I don't know if you drew it the way that I did. Remember when we drew ah? How do we draw? Write that character, right? Because that very same beginning is how I start Tazah. And then I just cut across. Right? Tazah, Tazah, Tazah. And then down. Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, those little accents, you don't have to exaggerate them. They just have to be, just enough. This is a really good drawing of one. This character that I drew right there, that's a really good example of it. Tazah, Tazah, which we know in the ancient looks like this. In the Assyrian, it looks like this. Tazah, Tazah, Tazah. See that? You got it. I was been watching you write it. The only thing I say is don't exaggerate these. You don't have to do that. You don't have to worry about that. It just has to be just a little tiny bit, just to let you know. Because if you just draw like that, technically that's fine too. We're just really draw that just to kind of round the letter out. Tazah. But like I was telling you, we had got it mixed up before. The end tazah, right? End tazah. Tazah is the one that has the line on the left and then comes across like this. Now you could kind of see they are kind of similar in a way. Um, because I know that we had got pa mixed up, but now you could see the difference. Boom, boom, boom. It's like a backwards Y. Ah, end pa. Tazah, end tazah. And then you're practicing it. That's how you remember it. So end tazah, end tazah, end tazah. Just like that. I'll give you a minute to write that down. Go ahead. Finish the alphabet. So let's go ahead, round that out. That's the end of the ones that have an E there. So qua, aura. Qua, which we know looks like a little jugfish or like a Q. Right? Yeah, it kind of looks like a rock. Boom. Like an unfinished R. Because this line does not come all the way out. It's short. Qua. Qua. Now, tomorrow when we are at Saturday, So like you're gonna see all the, you'll be able to recognize it. Now, purposefully, you notice how I keep a gap right here? It doesn't connect. Quad, quad. And you know what's crazy is a question mark, right? Question mark. Question marks do this, right? So it's kind of like quad is just like it has a little question mark on it, but it just has a line, but there's no dot. So the quad is just going to be like that. See that? The lazy R. Yeah. Quad. Well, first we got to do rock. Rock, flag, backwards arm, and it looks like in the Syrian backwards, lowercase r. Lowercase r. Don't get it mixed up with wa, because wa obviously has a shorter lip right here. And don't get it mixed up with inta, because inta goes really far down. So ra is kind of even, like as far as it goes this way, that's as far as it goes down. It's almost square in that sense. So when you're writing ra, you just simple like that. Boom, boom. It's you may see it squared off like that in some applications, typically curved though. Yeah, curved. Curved. Ra. Short name has a ra in it. Right? So if we use the, because your name is Kaza, Ya, and then Ra. Kaza Ya. There's a connection, so you know what it's like. Kaza Ya. See that? So I'm using Ra. Your name has Ra in it, you want to know how to write it. Ra. 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 Saying it every time you write it. Ra. 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 I have it down pat in no time. Let's see how yours is looking. Well, second to last one, Sha, which we know is two sharp, sharp. Uh, right. And in the Assyrian, it's just more squared off. This is how I write it. It almost looks like a rake, right? So it comes across diagonal, cuts down. Sharply cuts to the right, sharply cuts up, and then sharply cuts diagonal. Then you just copy that in the middle. And there's your shot. So I'm writing it like this. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, 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 boom. It's just really sharp. While in ancient Hebrew, it's more simple. This is the Assyrian, of course, a little bit fancier, boom, like that. So, I think it's sharp, sharp. Something with that kind of direct, or like a T. Yeah, shot. I mean, I try to teach myself this shit, but well, I'm glad I can help you. Is this definitely catching on now? Shot. It's like a little dog. I say it's finished. Settle. Settle. Yeah. I say dog. So, all right. So, stop in the ancient Hebrew is like a fallen piece. Right? But stop in this area draw a stick figure dog. It does. That's it. And that's why we want to put the curve at the right side. Because if you don't want to come across and end up making it look like a cock. Very distinctly, it has curves on it so that it is its own thing. Stop. Yeah. Like I said, the more practice you get, the better you'll have on the form. Right? So now we've built the entire. We have, of course, 5 of those characters have an end variant. But let's run through it one more time. So we have Aba, Ga, Da, Ha, Wa, Za. Right? Ka, Ta, Ya. Ka. And we have and then we have Ka, La, Ma, Na, Sa, I, Ha. Sa. We don't want to say Za. It's Za. Sa. Right? Big Sa, dude. Like, ever seen that name? Sa. Like, Sa. Sa, I. Za, Qua. Oh. Shit. I forgot what. Ra. Sha. Za, Qua, Ra, Sha, Sa. Za, Qua, Ra, Sha. Build the series. Now, the more you practice, the easier you'll be able to switch between ancient and Syrian. It'll be like, because on the test, what you're going to end up doing is you're going to end up writing 12 tribes of Israel in the ancient and the Assyrian. You're going to have to write the 18 kings or the 18 nations in the ancient and the Assyrian. That's a whole other thing. That's something that may actually take a couple classes, but I want to get to that at some point. But I do have a curriculum that I'm going to be teaching along with the other brothers in Texas. That we have a first class beginning of March. But for now, we're going to continue to do this because this is what you see on the test, right? So this is, if anything, if you want, take a picture of this if you need to, or take a picture of this. This is another good thing. And have in your notes. This is a great thing to have in your notes so that you can see the different versions all the way across and how they look. But also this by itself, because as you practice that ba, ga, da, and then going through the whole thing, then it becomes more second nature. With that, we're at Isupk. Started out at 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York. Where the command general kind of here to teach so-called blacks, Latinos, and Americans, the other group Israelites, Bible speak of. It has been Friday,